Resident Evil 4, one of my top 5 favorite games of all time, and I can unbiasedly say a game that defined the evolution of video games moving forward, going on to earn a reputation as one of the greatest video games ever made. And now, almost 20 years later, it's been remade. Some of us have gone gray in that time, others have had our gray matter fried after spending 10 minutes on Twitter, and when this remake was announced, I gotta say, I was not on board. I mean, why remake a game that still holds up? Resident Evil 4 is literally perfect. It would be like remaking The Empire Strikes Back. You have very little to gain and almost everything to lose. Plus, Code Veronica deserved the remake more, but I digress. And after spending a lengthy 3 playthroughs with the game, I think it's time someone qualified gives you an honest review. And after all, I live and breathe Resident Evil, with it being my favorite franchise of all time. Who else would you trust to break this down for you? So welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and today we're going to be doing a review of Resident Evil 4 Remake. Now, a remake can't honestly be reviewed without comparing it to its predecessor, which makes sense. Without the original version, it wouldn't have a remake, and when it comes to remakes, just like a Sergio Leone film, there's gonna be some good, some bad, and some ugly. So let's start with the good, and by extension, the most obvious upgrade, the graphics and visuals. Now, the original had incredible graphics at the time it came out as well. In fact, it won awards for its graphics, as well as a slew of other things, and the HD remasters still look incredible even today. But this game? Its visuals are on a whole nother level. I mean, from the rundown impoverished village to the stone floors of the castle to the sleek, wet, rocky outcroppings of the island, this game exudes lived-in atmosphere. You can really tell what Capcom's goal was with the visuals, and they smashed those goals like a biological male swimmer smashes female records. But it's not just the environments that look this good. Weapons, character models, they're all nearly flawless. You can tell how great graphics are in a realistically styled game by how they do the hair. Can you see individual strands? Does it flow realistically when a character is running or moves their head in a cutscene? I haven't been this impressed with a game visually since Dragon Ball FighterZ so accurately captured the anime's iconic art and video game cell shading. But this is leaps and bounds beyond that, and I wasn't even running it at full graphical specs. I mean, yeah, my PC's pretty beefy, but just in case, I was only running it at about an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, and there were no issues, no frame rate problems, no pop-ins. I was astounded. The only issue I really ran into was some frame drops for my viewers when I was streaming, but that seems to have been my streaming software since I wasn't experiencing that on my end when actually playing it. So wait, you're telling me a AAA game released with no flaws, day one? What trickery is this? Have we been sent back in time to 2013? Another thing Resident Evil 4 Remake excels in is adding more to do while playing the game, with side quests, challenges, and a revamped treasure system. The treasure system in the original is iconic, with a very limited number of special treasures throughout the game, many of which can be combined together to sell to the merchant for an even higher price. In the remake, the various treasures are more abundant, which at first made me think it was less special because, well, if you missed a gem, it's fine, you can get another later. But then I noticed something. The treasure bonus. To compensate for the more available treasures, combining them in different ways alters the value of the treasure you're gonna sell. Bonuses for multiple individual colors, bonuses for using all the same color, bonuses for using 2 of one color and 2 of another color. It forces you to strategize how you want to place the gemstones in the treasure you're going to sell to maximize your profit later in the game, or take less money now but spend it immediately on that sweet weapon upgrade you may need in that exact moment because the game's difficulty is scaling as you continue. Now, which version is better? Honestly, it depends on what you're looking for. If you want the satisfaction of exploring for a rare treasure and if you missed it, oh well, try harder on your next playthrough. You are better off with the original. But if you prefer the method of exploring choice in your treasures with more abundance, the remake is definitely the way to go, and I honestly think I prefer the remake. I actually didn't even notice the treasure bonus in my first playthrough because I was still in the headspace of treating this game like its OG counterpart, and I was actually kinda disappointed in how easy the treasures were to obtain. But upon my second playthrough, I caught those sweet golden letters. Duo bonus, and I started to experiment a bit, and it was a literal game changer. Spindles also see a change in this game. Whereas they were originally just another treasure to sell before, now they're a tradable item that you can use to exchange for items with the merchant that aren't available in the shop. They can occasionally be found by defeating strong enemies, but the bulk of collecting them will be done by completing various side quests. And I'll be honest, I never thought I'd see, let alone enjoy, side quests in a Resident Evil game, but here we are. There's a few different varieties that you'll run into if you find them hidden around, usually near a merchant, ranging from destroying the blue medallions to murdering Master Splinter's relatives, finding and selling certain items to the merchant, to my favorite, defeating strong one-off mini-bosses. I honestly wish there were more of these. There's only 3 to be found, but these were by far the most heart-pounding fights in the game, even outdoing the boss fights in my opinion. An oppressively strong infected wolf, a mind-numbingly resilient golden-clad knight, and an Iron Maiden with more leeches inside him than Sasuke has dead relatives. Every single one of these fights will take every ounce of skill you had to survive, or you can cheat like me and mollywop them with the infinite launcher. Rest assured, I took them on the hard way my first playthrough. The spindles are definitely a cool reward for completing these fun distractions, but these monstrosities also drop a fair amount of treasure as well, making the attempts doubly worth it. And to top this off with finding all the Salazar wind-up toys serving the same function as the Mr. Raccoon and Charlie dolls in Remake 2 and 3 respectively, and new, maybe improved, jury's still out on that one, version of the merchant's target practice, there's enough side content to keep you replaying this game over and over. Not that I needed a reason to do that in the original. I mean, I've beaten it over 64 times, and no, that's not an exaggeration. I've replayed this game multiple times a year, every year since it came out almost 20 years ago. But it is still nice to have even more reasons for replaying this remade version of the greatest entry in the Biohazard franchise. The game also adds and changes a number of events from the original, and while this can be a double-edged sword, when it does work, it really works. The entire El Gigante section in the castle is brand new, and it was a great addition. The armor it wears is cobbled together and barbaric looking. The gameplay in that section revolving around a chase was fast-paced and heart-pounding, and the kill with a cannon to the face, just brutal. The regenerators becoming Iron Maidens once you kill them. The first time this happens is the ultimate, wait, what's happening moment, and from then on, you're on your toes. Is this going to happen with every regenerator? Is this a one-off? Now I have to focus even more on keeping my rifle ammo stocked up. It's a change that, while simple on the surface, adds so much more tension fitting of the name Resident Evil. The same can be said for Chopper Mike's death. Seeing him taken out by the Plaga-infected bugs swarming him is so much worse than just a rocket launcher taking him out. You feel that claustrophobia of being stuck in a cockpit, unable to defend from the onslaught of monsters as the inevitable excruciating death comes for him. R.I.P. Mike. That being said, there is one downside to Mike's death. After he does die, all the bugs are still there for you to kill, so you go right back into the action. Whereas in the original, there were no enemies after his death, and it did give you that quiet, somber moment to really take in what just happened and hit you right in the feels. That brings me to my next point. For every one change for the better, there's about 3 for the worse, and this is where I'm going to lose a lot of you, but stay with me, hear me out before you turn me off, because I'm not going to spend the entire video sucking this game's infected phallus. This game isn't perfect, and I think it's only fair to point out the flaws in this game in as objective of a fashion as I can, so hear me out, give me a chance before you rage quit the video because I'm speaking ill of our shiny new toy. Let's start with the plot. It necessitates that you played the original to actually understand it completely. The game just assumes you've played the original. Tell me, what's Sadler's plan? Why'd he kidnap Ashley? Well, if you've only played the remake, good luck. The game doesn't actually tell you through its narrative. I've played it 3 times. The game straight up never says why Ashley was kidnapped. I mean, yeah, we have this scene.
What do you want?
I simply wish to share this gift with as many as possible. A humble wish, don't you think? You see, we are all connected through the holy body. And now your flesh and bones, your very thoughts, are already one with us.
Bullshit.
But he doesn't actually explain what he needs Ashley for. The original is much better about this.
What do you want?
To demonstrate to the whole world our astounding power, of course. No longer will the United States think they can police the world forever. So, we kidnapped the president's daughter in order to give her our power and then send her back.
No. Leon, I think they
They shot something in my neck.
What did you do to her?
We just planted her a little gift. Oh, there's going to be one hell of a party when she returns home to her loving father. But before that, I thought I might bargain with the president for some donation. Believe it or not, it takes quite a lot of money to keep this church up and running.
Faith and money will lead you nowhere, Sadler.
He explains he's going to ransom her back to get money for his church, but then use the Plaga and Ashley to infect the president, therefore having the ability to control the world through politics. This also happens far earlier in the game, establishing the threat in a way that builds Leon and Sadler's relationship. In the remake, Leon doesn't even meet Sadler until there's maybe 2 hours of gameplay left. Sadler doesn't really feel like a big threat looming overhead when you cut out all of he and Leon's interactions. In fact, all the relationships and character dynamics are worse in this game. Leon and Ada have very little on-screen time together, and when they do, their chemistry is completely gone. Compare this scene of them meeting for the first time in the remake to the original.
You can stop right there, Leon. Wouldn't make me use this, would you?
Well, after 6 years, that is one hell of a greeting, Ada.
You don't seem surprised. Interesting.
Try using knives next time. Better for close encounters.
Not a bad move. Very smooth.
So who are you working for this time?
Oh, Leon. You know I don't work in town. Leave the girl. She's lost no matter what. You walk away now, and who knows? Maybe you'll live to meet me again. And then I might get you that greeting you were looking for.
You think I'm gonna give up that easy?
Right. How about we continue this discussion another time?
Put your hands where I can see them.
Sorry, but following a lady's lead just isn't my style.
Put them up now.
Bit of advice, try using knives next time. Works better for close encounters.
Leon. Long time no see.
Ada. So it is true.
True? About what?
You, working with Wesker.
I see you've been doing your homework.
Why, Ada?
What's it to you?
Why are you here? Why'd you show up like this?
See you around.
Ada!
We lose so much in this remake. We lose the emotion between Leon and Ada where they both know they're on opposite sides, but there's some sort of mutual feelings between them. We lose Leon asking about Wesker, showing he's been doing his homework since Raccoon City, tying him into the struggle that started with Chris and Jill all the way back in the first game. The icing on the cake, we lose Ada getting the drop on Leon with the sunglasses. Is that cheesy? Sure, but it shows that as good as Leon thinks he's gotten, Ada is still always going to be one step ahead of him, playing him like a fiddle even if there is some real emotion between the two deep down in there. It's a staple in Resident Evil games that if Leon is around, Ada's somewhere in the background to be found as well, and this game completely ruins their dynamic. When even Resident Evil 6 is doing something better, you made a mistake, RE4R. This also doesn't just extend to Ada, but Krauser, Lewis, Sadler, and Salazar as well. Take Lewis for example. He has far more screen time now than he did in the original, but what's it amount to? Leon doesn't trust him because he acts slimy and untrustworthy. Leon is effectively forced into working with him out of necessity. And this technically works, but does it work better than the original? Well, no it doesn't, because that's already Ada's role in the story. Ada is the one who is the untrustworthy ally that Leon must work with in small doses, even if they're at odds with the final goal. Giving Lewis the exact same arc is lazy. It also minimizes his death. Lewis was trustworthy in the original. He clearly was hiding something, but out the gate Leon could tell he was a genuine person, even if there was something to hide. And in turn, while Lewis was cocky and loudmouthed, he was helpful from the get-go, because Capcom knew his role. And it wasn't a copy-pasted role from Ada. Having his death be at the hands of Krauser instead of Sadler kills all emotion for Lewis's journey. He was killed by the man he helped create the parasite for, while trying to escape and help Leon. That holds so much more weight than being killed by some old enemy of Leon's that Lewis had practically nothing to do with, and the original death is far more grimacing to boot. So is Lewis cool in the new game? Yeah, he works fine, but he's playing a role that isn't his, and as such, the character development and death actually suffer from a writing perspective. No amount of fancy graphics and good voice acting can fix these basic writing flaws. Sadler and Salazar are easy to sum up. They're just boring characters now that Leon has minimal interaction with. As I mentioned earlier, Leon doesn't even meet Sadler until near the end of the game, and he only meets with Salazar 3 times before the boss fight with him. This causes Leon, Salazar, and Sadler all to suffer as characters because Leon isn't in communications with them throughout the game. In the original, the Los Illuminados jack Leon's comms, and throughout the game, taunt him, make life generally difficult for him, and inject much-needed character moments into the game that expand on all 3 of these characters further. Leon no longer has near the witty one-liners delivered at them, causing a range of emotions from casual laughter to impudent anger. We no longer see the villain's growing frustration at Leon's progress, or Leon's cool demeanor occasionally shaken up by something one of these dastardly cult leaders throw at him. I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to go for a more gritty, realistic approach. But that's not Resident Evil. It never has been. Resident Evil is supposed to be a little cheesy. It's been in the game's DNA ever since the franchise debuted. It's a perfect blend of sci-fi horror and classic monster movie cheese. Even Resident Evil 7 and 8 have the cheese factor intact, but not RE4R. By this game taking itself so seriously, it lost a lot of the heart and charm the original had, and still does have. These games, while dark and mysterious, almost always maintain a level of self-aware goofiness to break up the anxiety and harsh moments throughout. I mean, treat it like food. Have you ever heard someone say, "I like this dish, but I could do with less cheese"? No, because that doesn't exist. Salazar was creepy because he was so childlike. It was so much more unnerving to have this little gremlin that acted like a kid take sadistic pleasure in what he was doing to you than this by-the-numbers generic version we have now. Something similar can be said for Sadler. The new version plays it so straight that he's even more forgettable than Simmons, the antagonist from RE6. Like seriously, 2 things this game does worse than Resident Evil 6? Track record is getting worse and worse. Sadler was an interesting villain because he was so over the top. He had classic comic book villain lines like this.
What's so funny?
Oh, I think you know. The American prevailing is a cliché that only happens in your Hollywood movies. Oh, Mr. Kennedy, you entertain me. To show my appreciation, I will help you awaken from your world of clichés.
He and Leon would banter back and forth like this.
Enjoy the reunion with your old friend.
As a matter of fact, I did.
Wonderful. I wouldn't want my special guests on the island feeling unattended.
Guess I'm supposed to thank you, right?
Ah, I have an idea. Since you're here, why don't I introduce you to it? It should keep you busy.
Can't remember the name, huh? A senior moment, perhaps.
Oh, Enjoy the fun.
Speaking of it, did you enjoy that section in the original? I did. It's one of my favorite parts of the entire game, having to rush through this small, cramped collection of cages while the clock is ticking, hoping you can get the gates open before you fall to your doom. It is exhilarating no matter how many times you played the original. But guess what? It's cut. The boss fight with it after that, cut. The super slick light beam hallway that shows the ultimate fruits of Leon's secret agent training, cut. The choice to fight El Gigante or a large number of Ganados after barely surviving the cabin attack, cut. Separate ways, cut. An alternate outfit for Ashley with sex appeal, cut. Leon and Huntington's multiple interactions before the comms get jacked, almost all, cut. Seriously, what was Capcom thinking? The stuff they've added doesn't begin to cover the worth of what we lost. Sure, it's not as bad as what was done to my baby Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, but it's still abysmal. You're creating a remake and it has less content than the original version that was almost 20 years old. Once again, no amount of good graphics justifies this. Sure, maybe separate ways will be added later as DLC, like they're doing with the Mercenaries, but that shouldn't be the case. This is a remake of a nearly 2-decade-old game. We shouldn't be getting 70% of the product with 20% to be added later, and the final 10% never coming back at all. This next part's gonna get me in trouble, but it does have to be said. Leon just isn't as cool in this game. Yeah, he does occasionally have witty one-liners, just enough to make you think they nailed his character, but they didn't. This is a pale imitation of Leon. If the original Leon was Belle from Beauty and the Beast, this Leon is Emma Watson from the live-action remake. Looks great and seems perfect on your first viewing, but after really letting it sink in, which version are you going to remember more? Leon is a character that's always been a man of few serious words because we already have a character like that. Chris Redfield. Chris is the one that's stoic and serious, rarely offering up a joke, and being quick to jump to tense words. Leon wouldn't throw Lewis against the wall of a cabin while monsters are about to attack. Chris would. Leon wouldn't opine about how he's changed since Raccoon City. Chris would. They've taken Leon and turned him into Chris with a few one-liners to give you the nostalgia that you're playing the same character. But it's not. It's not the actor's fault. He does fine with what he's given, but the character isn't written the same. Leon is, to use a friend of mine's words, a sassy bitch. And he's correct. Tell me, which of these two scenes is cooler to you?
Better try a new trick, cause that one's getting old. You okay?
I've been better.
Ada! Sadler!
Did you choose the first one? Then congrats, you understand Leon as a character. He is the Spider-Man to Chris Redfield being Wolverine, and this remake seems to forget that, or worse, be ashamed of it. As if Capcom only put in the occasional jokes because they were like, this childish dialogue was in the original, so fans will demand to be included. Then they push their glasses up and sip their tea before continuing. But it's ruining our sophisticated game about a village that gets infected with fossilized worms and a church that wants to take over the world. Like, guys, it's a Resident Evil game. It's okay to give us some tongue-in-cheek moments. The original was balanced perfectly in a way that still gave us a compelling narrative and a hero that was easily identifiable to be the opposite archetype of Chris. Why change that? And my final criticism? Capcom is clearly afraid of Twitter. Look, I'm not going to say this game is woke or anything like that. It doesn't go out of its way to politically pander to any sort of ideology, but that doesn't mean some of the cuts aren't noticeable. And there's absolutely a pattern to them. Leon no longer hitting on Hunt again. Ashley no longer having a revealing alternate outfit. Ashley no longer propositioning Leon for overtime sex at the end of the game. Leon no longer scoffing at Ada and muttering, women. And Leon telling Ashley she can take care of herself at the end in the same way male characters always affirm girl bosses in today's media. the stuff is off-putting because why is it there, or in other cases, not there? Look, in Ashley's case, it is a bit of a problem. I got nothing against strong female characters. Resident Evil's full of them. Jill, Claire, Ada, Sheva, even Sherry Birkin later in the series. Hell, 2 of my top 5 favorite video game characters of all time are strong females. Jill Valentine and Amy Rose. Seriously, I'm a diehard Amy fan from Sonic the Hedgehog, but not every female character needs to be strong. It is okay to have a damsel in distress character, which is what Ashley is meant to be. Does this make or break the game? No, of course not. If this was the only quote-unquote issue, I'd hardly be bothered. But this trend to remove anything and everything that could be considered sexist in effort to appease Twitter is honestly growing really tiring, especially in a franchise that has always been extremely pro-female since the very first game. And when you add this to all the flaws I listed above, the writing, the changes to the story, yeah, it's all going to compound into an experience that honestly isn't the masterpiece that everyone claims the game is. I'm sorry guys, I loved Resident Evil. I always have and I always will. But after I get all the achievements in this game, I doubt I'll ever revisit it. Or at least I won't revisit it near as much as I do the original, which I genuinely do feel is superior to this remake in almost every way. While I do like the game, I'm not going to be influenced by recency bias like everyone else seems to be. The game is serviceable, it does its job, but it doesn't justify its own existence with the few things it does have over the original, when the original has been ported more times than Skyrim and still holds up. If you've never played this game and you're considering purchasing it, then I'd say wait for it to drop in price by about 20 bucks. Instead, buy the original first. It's available on GameCube, PS4, Steam, hell, it's probably on TI-82s at this point, and it's almost always on sale. With that being said, Resident Evil 4 Remake gets a brutally honest review score of 6 out of 10. But that's just my opinion. Let me know yours in the comments below, or you can scream at me for my opinion on Twitter, where you can find me at BoltTheWord. And if you made it this far, please do subscribe to the channel. I am a nerdy news channel, not really a review channel, but I do like to pepper them in now and again because I like to give my opinions on things that isn't really the news, especially things I'm passionate about, like Resident Evil. So please check back and check out the news when I do cover it. Everything from anime, Dungeons & Dragons, Magic the Gathering, you name it, it's all here in the Nerdosphere. And this has been Words of Paradise.